Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Jonathan Aronie and David Douglas. They're both partners at Sheppard, Mullin, Richter, and Hampton. They're also the founding members of the newly formed Organizational Integrity Group, or OIG, and that helps organizations identify and resolve complex legal problems and reputational threats. Gentlemen, certainly a very hot topic as we enter the 2020s. Tell us more about OIG.
You're right, it is a very hot topic today. Companies today operate in a very complex network of regulatory, legal, reputational threats. Every company's objective is to drive its business mission forward without getting entangled in those things. So when you think of integrity, you think of two concepts. Integrity being honest and rectitude, but it's also being whole. So the goal for a company is to line up its personnel to drive its mission forward, doing things in the right way. Our group focuses on eliminating threats to that mission, threats to a company's organizational integrity, so that it can accomplish its business
What prompted
objective.
the creation of OIG?
Well, so David and I and our partners in this group, we've been defending companies for 25 years in my case, 30 years, David's much older than I, 30 years in David's case, and we spend a lot of time getting companies out of trouble. Well, all the lessons learned from those experiences we felt could be put to use, keeping them out of trouble in the first place. And that experience really fed into coming up with a way to do that more institutionally. That formed the OIG.
Why wouldn't companies do this internally with their own legal or compliance teams? Why would they turn to OIG?
Well, really part of what we do is help them establish a framework and a dialogue to identify all of the complex values that really underlie almost any complex legal problem. And I think what we found over the years, there's a tendency to silo lawyers and business people, but complex legal and compliance problems really require a much more holistic approach to solve them. And really what we have developed over the years and what we focused on is helping clients tease out all of those complex values that have to come together to prevent problems or solve problems after they arise.
And I think another thing that it's hard for companies to do, because companies have their experiences. Outsiders have experiences from countless industries and countless companies. So we enable companies to learn from the mistakes of others.
Right.
And that's something it's hard to do when you're inside.
All right, now this is really interesting because you're both on the federal monitors for the New Orleans Police Department consent decree. That's in addition to your day jobs, practicing
Right.
law. Did that experience guide the development and genesis behind OIG?
Well, it's interesting. It did guide it, but we were able to take our 25, 30 years of experience and apply it, in corporate experience, and apply it to New Orleans to help reform the New Orleans Police Department. But we were also able to take lessons from reforming a major complex organization like the New Orleans Police Department and apply that in the corporate setting. So it was a very useful two-way street that I think helps our clients and helps the New Orleans Police Department.
All right, and you're also focusing on value-driven approaches. In today's day and age of ESG-driven strategy, why focus on values?
There's been a tremendous shift in corporate America and in the public about looking at shared values. The Business Roundtable has addressed that issue, and I think companies today are really looking for a more authentic way to engage their employees on compliance issues, to engage their customers, to engage other stakeholders. So what we really focus on are broader shared values, not narrow legal principles, compliance obligations, but we really focus on the values that underlie all of those things. It's a much more effective way to talk to people about what a company is trying to do and why it has to do it in a certain way.
Can you give us a specific example of an issue or a problem that OIG has helped a company resolve?
Sure. There was one very recently, in fact. A major corporation needed a way to cause their employees to stand up and stop mistakes from being made or stop misconduct or to do the right thing. And corporations all over the country tell everyone to stand up and say something, but they don't give them the tactics or strategies of how to do that safely. Well, we actually worked with the New Orleans Police Department to create an active bystandership program where we teach police officers how to stand up and not rat on their colleagues, but prevent misconduct from occurring in the first place. We've now taken the lessons of active bystandership, applied it in the corporate setting. There's a lot of social science behind it, and now we're seeing a new way to think about risk reduction and risk prevention that really corporations weren't thinking about previously.
It sounds like you're taking a problem-solving approach.
Absolutely.
To this.
Absolutely.
Thinking.
Absolutely right. What we focus on is solving the whole problem rather than looking narrowly at process or carving up. We look, what's the problem we're fundamentally dealing with? What's the risk here? As Jonathan likes to say, risk is risk. So what we focus on are those simple issues, simple challenges and questions, and back it out from there to address those.
I think for a long time, companies have siloed risk. They talk about legal risk or ethics risk or business risk. But as David said, to the decision makers, to the board, to the CEO, risk is risk. And looking at all elements of risk really allows you to get to the root cause and try to solve the underlying problem.
I think that approach makes sense, just taking a step back, stopping, thinking, and looking at the picture holistically. How have your clients reacted to that approach?
They love it. They love it because as I said, it addresses these things in a more authentic way, in a way that resonates, it's organic. And I think the other truth is people understand lawyers talk values. I spend a lot of time in courtrooms, but when you talk to juries, you don't talk about narrow legal issues. You talk about broad values. That's where you bring people together, and people are used to lawyers injecting values. Sometimes we say some of our best days are not the high billing days, but it's the days where we say, well, maybe you can do that, but you don't want to, and here's why. So people are used to lawyers leading values discussions, and so we're really just being much more explicit about that.
The clients from the board down to the GC and the C-suite, they also like thinking about problem solving. And so the fact that we not only think, but we write a lot about how people think, how people make decisions, how people handle ethical dilemmas. Like all those things go into the way we attack problems. And our clients have found that very refreshing. Lawyers that think through problems.
That was my first adjective, refreshing as well. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. And David, thank you for joining us as well. And thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.